Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome again back to the Earth, our MudfossilGaia. So, another live stream tonight. Tonight, I wanted to go over the Zuni Legend that I shared with you guys about the hero twins. They talk about like a plastic event and then a flooding, and it's really detailed. So what I was going to do is play that video, just for you, and then I'm going to bring on Smoking in G Sharp and go over some of the pictures of some of the melted stuff around the world and talk about it. So let me start by playing this video for you while we let some more people roll in the chat room, and then I'll bring Smoking in G Sharp.
Feed the flames and set them dancing. Hail the sun and hail to life. Feed the flames and set them dancing. Hail the sun and hail to life. Spear of fire burns so brightly as the sun.
Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome again back to the Earth, our MudfossilGaia. This is one of my favorite videos. If you're not familiar with it, this is Mudmen by Pink Floyd. I thought this would give a great perspective to the story I'm about to share with you. Something big happened here, that's for sure. And everybody's trying to figure out, is it creatures or is it buildings? Because the mountains sure don't seem to be what they've led us on to believe. So let me share with you what the indigenous people here have to tell us about what may have happened here, at least in North America. Anyway, so let me share with you this Zuni legend. Search for the middle in the hardening of the world. As it was with the first men and creatures, so it was with the world. It was young and unripe. Earthquakes shook the world and rent it. Demons and monsters of the underworld fled forth. Creatures became fierce beasts of prey, and others turned timid, becoming their quarry. Wretchedness and hunger abounded in black magic. Fear was everywhere among them. So the people, in dread of their precious possessions, became wanderers, living on the seeds of grass, eaters of dead and slain things. Yet guided by the beloved twain, they sought in the light and under the pathway of the sun, the middle of the world, over which alone they could find the earth at rest. When the tremblings grew still for a time, the people paused at the first of sitting places. Yet They were still poor and defenseless and unskilled, and the world still moist and unstable. Demons and monsters fled from the earth in times of shaking and threatened wanderers. Then the two took counsel of each other. The elders said the earth be made more safe and valleys for the children rested. If they sent down their fire bolts of thunder, aimed at all four regions, heave up and down, fire would belch over the world and floods of hot water would sweep over it. Smoke would blacken the daylight. The earth would be at last safer for men. So the beloved twain let fly the thunderbolts. The mountains shook and trembled, and cracked and crackled under the floods and fires, and the hollow places, the only refuge of men and creatures, grew black and awful. At last, thick rain fell, putting out the fires. Then water flooded the world, cutting deep trails through the mountains and burying or uncovering the bodies of things and beings. Where they huddled together and were blasted, thus their blood gushed forth and flowed deeply, here in rivers and there in floods, for gigantic were they. But the blood was charred and blistered and blackened by the fires into the black rocks of the lower mesas. There were vast plains of dust, ashes, and cinders reddened like the mud of the hearth place. Yet many places behind and between the mountain terraces were unharmed by the fires. And even then, green grew trees and the grasses, and even flowers bloomed. Pockets of survival, the mesas, dwellings. I think so. Then the earth became more stable and drier, and its lone places less fearsome, since monsters of prey were changed to rock. It tells us what happened. They let fly their thunderbolts, and there were small pockets of survival. It says right here, many places behind and between the mountain terraces were unharmed. So there were pockets of survival. Okay, now they continue on trying to find this middle place. Again, the world rumbled, and they traveled into a country, to a place called where tree poles stand in the midst of waters. There's a typo there, because I've read this in another book. There they remained long, saying, "This is the middle." They built homes there. At times they met people who had gone before. Hoholcum, people who were there before. And thus they learned war. And many strange things happened there, as told in speeches of ancient talk. Then when the earth groaned again, the twain bade them to go forth. And they murmured. Many refused and perished miserably in their own homes, as do rats in falling trees or flies in forbidden food. But the greater number went forward, until they came to steam mist in the midst of waters. And they saw the smoke of men's hearth fires, and many houses scattered over the hills before them. More survivors. When they came nearer, they challenged the people, rudely, demanding who they were and why they were there. For in their last standing place, they had touch of war. "We are the people of the seed," said the men of the hearth fires, "born elder brothers of ye, and led of the gods." "No," said our fathers, "we are led of the gods, and we are the people of the seed." Long lived the people in the town on the sunrise slope of the mountains of Kaluanlawan, until the earth began to groan warningly again. Loath were they to leave the place of the Kaka and the lake of their dead, but the rumbling grew louder, and the twain beloved called, and all together they journeyed eastward, seeking once more the place of the middle. But they grumbled amongst themselves, so when they came to a place of great promise, they said, Let us stay here. Perhaps it may be the place of the middle. So they built houses there, larger and stronger than ever before, and more perfect, for they were strong in numbers and wiser. Though yet unperfected as men, they called the place of sacred stealing. Interesting. Long they dwelt there happily, but growing wiser and stronger, so that with their tails and dressed in the skins of animals, they saw they were rude and ugly. In chase or in war they were at a disadvantage, for they met older nations of men with whom they fought. No longer feared the gods and monsters, but only their own kind. So therefore the gods called a council. Changed shall be ye, O our children, cried the twain. Ye shall walk straight in the pathways, clothed in garments, and without tails, that ye may sit more straight in council, and without webs on your feet or talons on your hands. So the people were arranged in procession like dancers, and the twain with their weapons and fires of lightning shored off the forelocks hanging down over their faces, severed the talons, and slitted their webbed fingers and toes. Sore was the wounding, loud cried the foolish, when lastly the people were arranged in procession for the raising of their tails. But those who stood at the end of the line, shrinking farther and farther, fled into terror, climbing trees and high places with loud chatter, wandering far, sleeping ever in treetops in the faraway summer land. They are sometimes seen of far walkers, long of tail and long-handed, like wizened men children. Like wizened men children. Wizened men children. That's weird. Interesting. But people grew in strength and became more perfect, and more than ever went to war. They grew vain. They had reached the place of the middle. They said, let us not warily wander forth again, even though the earth tremble and the twain bid us forth. And even as they spoke, the mountain trembled and shook, though far sounding. But as the people changed also were the twain. Small and misshapen, hard-favored and unyielding of will, strong of spirit, evil and bad. They taught the people to war and led them far to the eastward. At last the people neared the midst of the plains to the eastward, great towns built in the heights. Great were the fields and possessions of this people, for they knew how to command and carry the waters, bringing new soil. Sounds like Hohokam. Sounds like what they saw when they came over here to conquer the place. They said that the canal systems here in Tucson alone rivaled that of Mexico City. That was their very words. And this too without hail or rain. So our ancients, hungry with long wandering for new food, were the more greedy and often gave battle. So these destroyers wandered around following these twins, conquering these already established, beautiful ancient cities. Interesting. It was here that the ancient woman of the elder people, who carried her heart in her rattle and was deathless of wounds in the body, led the enemy, crying out shrilly. So it fell out ill for our fathers. For moreover, thunder raged and confused their warriors. Rain descended and blinded them, stretching their bowstrings of sinew and quenching the flight of their arrows, as the flight of bees is quenched by the sprinkling plume of the honey hunter. But they devised bowstrings of yucca, and the two little ones sought counsel of the Sun Father, who revealed the secret of the ancient woman and the magic powers over the under fires of the dwellers of the mountains, so that our enemy in the mountain town was overmastered. And because our people found in that great town some hidden deep in cellars and pulled them out as rats are pulled from a hollow cedar, and found them blackened by the fumes of their war magic, yet wiser than the common people. They spared them and received them into their next of kin of the black corn. Wow. So they saved them and tried to use them for their knowledge. Huh? But the tremblings and warnings still sounded, and the people searched for the stable middle. Now they called a great council of men, and the beasts, birds, and insects of all kinds. After a long council, it was said, "Where is Waterscape? He has 6 legs, all very long. Perhaps he can feel with them to the uttermost of the 6 regions and point out the very middle." So Waterscape was summoned, but lo, it was the Sun Father in his likeness which appeared. And he lifted himself to the zenith and extended his finger feet to all the 6 regions, so that they touched the north, the great waters, the west, and the south, and the east, the great waters, and to the northeast the waters above, and to the southwest the waters below. But to the north his finger foot grew cold, so he drew it in. Then gradually he settled down upon the earth and said, "Where my heart rests, make a spot, and build a town of the middlemost, for there shall be the midmost place of the earth mother." And his heart rested over the middle of the plain and the valley of Zuni. And when he drew in his finger legs, lo, there were the trail roads leading out and in, like stays of a spider's nest, into and from the midmost place he had covered. Here, because of their good fortune in finding the stable middle, the priest father called the town the abiding place of happy fortune.
Hello.
Hello, Smoking in G Sharp. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me up. I've been watching the video. It's fascinating. I mean,
Yeah,
once you look at, you put on those goggles, as I say, those new goggles, and look at these things. It's melted.
I know, right? And that story has so much of that information as to, what may have actually happened.
Oh,
It,
yeah,
it's,
absolutely. It's fascinating. Fascinating.
yeah.
Because
So, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, something happened, and we did not get the real story. We got something very Disneyland far-fetched in this generation of mine.
Right.
And
Exactly.
yeah, and as a child, I grew up with those stories, and it was just all, fairy tales and folklore. Don't pay attention to that. The
Right.
scientists know what's going on here, and so I totally walked that route, until I started looking at these things, and yet what you bring forth is just fascinating, and I'll stop there.
Right. No, it is too. It's once you really start to see these things with those new eyes, it's like, wait a minute, something really did happen. And I think it's funny that everybody's trying to figure out, what happened, what happened. Well, nobody's asking the people that were here because they already have these stories, and it's not like they're trying to hide the information. It's just like we're not asking the right questions.
Right. Well, and we didn't have the right grooming as children either. We were all in lockstep just to, repeat what we see in a book and write it down again, and then you get an A. There was no critical thinking, I guess, is what I was going for. And this stuff was just told, oh, that's fantasy, but going to the moon is real. I had to throw that in. I just had to throw that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, yeah, and this is just great. And yeah, please go ahead, continue.
Yeah. So here, let me pull up some of these pictures here. Okay. And yeah, um, like this one here is a really good one. Where you can see like there is a tower here, but then over here, this one, it looks like it probably used to be a tower, right?
Correct. Absolutely. It is literally a pocket of survival. Something
Right,
came down on top of it, but it stopped, and you could tell I mean, I'm just going to say it, very Tartarian. Uh, I mean, we had
right.
castles and
Yeah,
all of that King Arthur folklore type stuff was really going on. And yeah, and then see the layers on top. I mean, that was absolutely something that just so much heat came down on it so quickly.
right.
I mean,
Yeah,
unbelievable. You could see the holes where there was something.
there was. And the story is there too, you know?
Yeah,
So
oh
it,
yeah.
it, it looks exactly like they said, in between the mesas were pockets of survival.
And they were
And
in the
there it is,
middle. Yeah.
they're there. It's like, oh,
Yeah, and they were in the middle. It's absolutely,
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
there it
just
is.
like the story. And then in the same story, I still find it so fascinating that there are the creatures the size of mountains, you know?
Oh yeah, that's,
So yeah, it has it all.
I wanted to bring something up I heard recently on another channel. I would shout out the channel, but I forgot his name. But he had a great angle. He was looking at a lot of predominantly Catholic, cathedrals and basilicas, and he found a pattern where they were building these churches, going from, Constantine's day up until the 1500s or whatever, uh, over old Roman baths. They kept finding
Right?
these old Roman baths underneath these churches and
Yeah,
buildings.
and they're so deep. They're
Yes.
so far down under the civilizations that have been built on top of them. I
Well,
know.
I started thinking, but the Romans knew something. What did they build those baths on top of? And I'm getting back to where you enlightened me because I didn't think of this, where the dragon's blood, which we call lava and all that heated core center of the earth, is the blood of
Right?
the dragons. And what if the Romans, or even someone before them, they just keep building upon these creatures because they're giving something. I'm sorry, I just had to. They're giving lava,
Right.
they're giving heat, or they're giving energy. Something's going on in these places that they keep building upon. And also, we also know that Christianity tried to hide things, so they would just put a building on top of it. There you
Yeah.
go. You
Yeah,
don't know what's going on there. We've got
right?
to have, yeah. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it really makes you wonder, how many civilizations deep it goes. And then like you say with the lava, there's a whole nother channel that talks about, dragon energy and that our ancients were harnessing what they called dragon energy. Especially over in Asia, it was a big thing. Yeah, I think it's drop radio. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
sometimes, yeah, when I'm live, sometimes I get nervous and I forget everybody's name. But
yeah,
yeah, but yeah, that's fascinating because we're raised on fossil fuels. Yuck, yuck. I think that was kind of their little joke on us, but there's a real truth to that.
right,
Where is this oil and lava? I mean, it could indeed be just very large creatures that are our area. I don't know what to call it anymore because everybody has so many fascinating ideas between, we live in a computer matrix to, I don't know what, a fishbowl. So
Right.
I try to encompass everyone's ideas. Um,
Yeah, it's
so
very
I,
multidimensional.
it's becoming more so. I love it. Very Aquarian people. Um, yeah, so please do go ahead. I'll stop here.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Um, yeah, but really, as a mud fossiler, when this whole melted building thing came out, that was really frustrating for me, because looking at the mountains, to look at it and accept, oh my gosh, what I thought was a creature was just a structure. It's like, wait a minute, I didn't want to believe it at first. I really didn't. But then I was watching Autodidactic, um, and he was going over Aden, Yemen. And there's these pictures that the conquistadors drew before they went there. And you can see every mountaintop has a castle on it. Let me see here.
Fascinating. Oh, look at that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They built on these ridiculous rocks and cliffs and they tell us, oh, the priests, the monks, the shaman dug, these caves and everything. And no, they did not. Why would they have done that? You know,
Right.
they
Right.
went back and they probably lived in these melty, castle-y areas. But yeah, this is fat.
Yeah.
And
So,
and
yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was going to say, yes, some of the other channels are pointing out exactly what you're saying, where they had like these peaks of castles.
Yeah.
And when they melted, we now look at them as, mountain peaks, but they're actually were buildings. And if you kind of really look at them, you could see it now. It's
Right.
a,
Well,
it's,
when I looked at this one, see, I really like watching Autodidactic because he'll take you, to the current pictures and stuff too, and compare them. And when he took it to modern day Aden, after I saw this picture, and right here, you can see not only are all the castles gone, but like half of the mountain tops is gone. And it's like, where did it all go?
did they
You know?
deconstruct it, tear it down, or did it?
Well, I have been looking at this for a minute now. And so I think the big one, let's see, there was a big one in the middle right
Oh,
here, this great
oh,
big one. I
look at
think there's a few
those.
remnants of this one still. Right here. And then on the tops of the other ones, you can kind of see a few,
Yeah.
but it looks more like these actually got melted, almost like just like it says in the Bible, and they melted like wax down over the rest of the city. And down in here is this really mysterious, well, they call it the tanks, but what it is, it's an old Starfort that was
Oh.
buried under the rubble that they accidentally stumbled upon, you know? And so this is what it looks like.
Ah,
There is
nice. Look at
a,
that. Look at, and you
yeah,
can see where it's melted and then where they've kind of come back and tried to build upon it.
right. Like this is
Yeah.
probably modern that they built, but inside there, who
Yeah.
knows what's in there?
Yeah. This is exactly, and it's melted buildings.
It
It,
is. I mean, when I saw this, and to see the pictures before, it's like, wait a minute, where's all the castles? Well, I think these are the castles,
yes.
you know?
Something really unfortunate happened, and we are the pockets of survival. And, I heard many
Right.
years ago a psychiatrist was speculating that we do indeed carry trauma from this event, in our DNA. And
Right.
that's why we're now kind of somewhat a troubled civilization, because we're just, kind of coming out of some real craziness, people. This,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's bad. But yeah, they would, for a long time in my childhood, they would pass something like that off as, oh, the monks in the area dug the caves and made it look like, but no, no, no.
Right. Right. And I know Aden, Yemen is, a really big holy war zone too. It has been for years, but I don't think that we have technology today that would have done something like this. And for them to find, they just stumbled upon this under a bunch of rubble, and they don't know who built it or why they built it or when it was built.
Yeah,
And
there's a lot of that going on these days. And
yeah.
that's a fascinating find, a Starfort on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
they're all
there's
over the world like pyramids now. I mean,
right, yeah. Oh, I should go to the comments here.
oh, sorry, I should
No,
too.
that's okay. I forget.
I'm looking at the screen and just being so fascinated. I forget that there's anybody else here.
Right? Yeah, Historiology Petrified Past. I'm glad you could stay. He says castles were built upon the Titans. After the first reset, each reset, us humans got smaller and smaller.
Yes,
Exactly. That's what all the stories keep saying. So it's like, yeah, so the mountains actually could have been structures for the gigantic size stature human race, and then they got melted and built upon again and again. And who knows? I mean, I think it's been 4 times, and we're in the fifth world is what a lot of them
that's
say.
that's about right. Yes, I'm gonna, and because this is speculation, I do not know anything. Because let's just call us the humans had to keep going through these traumas and probably having to go into caves or underground things for a long time, that would naturally make our stature smaller each time as these events happen. I'm just speculating. I don't know. We could have been made this way. That's another thought that the giants needed, the smaller labor and created us. I mean, there's many ideas about that.
Right? Yeah. Who knows?
I know. I'm
I
just
mean, we find stuff like this, and it's like what we do know is that it's not what they've told us, right?
no, not at all. And
you
and I
know.
just want to put out there, everybody, ride with me because I'm just one of those people that smokes a little G sharp, and then my mind just goes 5,000 directions.
Right? Oh,
Oh well,
let's see. No, that's okay. That's allowed here.
excellent.
Let's see. Yeah, go ahead, Leo. Leo's been helping me out with the comments here.
Scroll
So
up a little bit.
okay.
Yeah, I can hear you great. Yeah.
Move your thing for a second. Someone
What's up?
mentioned in the comments, scroll up a little bit more about carbon testing the stuff, and
Carbon testing the mud
right,
fossils.
and that's something that MudfossilGaia wants to do in a lot of aspects, and we're trying to reach out to other people that would allow her to maybe somehow do that. And we want to start finding ways to further prove or disprove, whichever way that might go. Like G Sharp said, you've got to be open-minded on this, follow where it leads you, and then when you prove or disprove that theory, you move on to the next point until you can prove or disprove that, right? So that is something that long term we would really like to do. That's why we want to do more boots on the ground and go out there, get samples of rocks, get samples of what we can out there, take pictures. We would love to travel to every place that she has been looking at on the map and go there physically and grab stuff, look at stuff, take it to experts and have them say to us, this is what it is, and we're open to that, but we're also skeptical because there are those out there that don't want to accept this. Okay, fine. If you're not going to be open-minded, that's okay. We can talk to others that want to be open-minded, but at the same time, there's others that want to say that this stuff is out there, but they're closing the doors and not helping others to promote this and share and be as open-minded. So to answer some of these questions, yes, this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg for where we hope that this will go, and realizing that this is not just a one person effort. This is a community effort, and hope that this community will come together and help make this grow and help us show what is or is not really been, has been, or is there. Sorry.
That's okay.
No, that was excellent. That was very well said. And I'm totally with you because, what we have is we have a lot of bureaucrats and old professors that will not let go of the old paradigm because they're making so much money on it, regardless whether it's real or not. And so that you're absolutely right. We're going to have to get together as a community and say, stop the lies, basically, and show us what's really going on here.
I've got to object one more comment in there too, because it's not just the whole community, even the ones that are on YouTube that are out there. Some of them may or may not be professors. Some of them may just be basic salesmen, but if they're showing stuff and are willing to take the time to show that stuff, they should as well be as open-minded to other theories, other possibilities, because it may or may not just prove their stuff and help. So I'm hoping that by allowing this platform to be as open as it can be and allow the discussion for everybody's open-mindedness on this, and let's delve into it. Let's really take his story out of the equation, or history, and find out where the myth and facts truly come together, or the coincidence.
The real stories are in the My Stories, the great My Stories.
That is absolutely correct. I love that. I do. I love that that Mimi twist on there. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. I think that we're just going to have to, be autodidactic. We're going to have to teach ourselves what's really going on here.
Right.
And yeah, and because they're happy and lazy and making good money on any paradigm they're told to sell us in the colleges and higher education with things like this. So we can't beat them that way, but surely they did not think that things like YouTube would undermine them.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's going on. It's a creeper, but I'm watching it. More and more people are going, that's kind of true when you say, how did Nixon talk to the astronauts? They get them to think, and all of a sudden, all this other stuff just falls into place,
I so want that phone service.
I do. Oh my gosh. Nixon had it made. He could talk to anybody.
Yeah, we'll try to keep it on this topic for now, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But yeah, this is absolutely great. Yeah, the melted buildings, and like I said, I don't know if there was an energy source that different civilizations were seeking by building on top of. They've even seen that in South America. A lot of the structures will have the huge stones of one era, and it's like another era comes and builds these little stones on top of it,
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's like they keep building upon these areas. Is it to hide something, or are they gathering something from it? And indeed, if these are, for my term, dragons, that they're building upon, there's got to be something in what they call the veins. When miners go,
Yeah.
they find a vein of gold or a vein
Right.
of ore.
Yep.
And that is exactly what it is. These are veins
Yeah.
from the decayed bodies of these creatures. And what are they gaining from them? Well, we know we gain a lot from the minerals. Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
that's where she's had me step in with my background in medical and having taken pre-med anatomy classes and things like that. It gives me I studied a lot of Western medicine, being military medical and following in that for the majority of my life, and so I have that view of it through the medical science view. And then luckily around my 30s, mid 30s, I was fully introduced into Eastern medicine through I went through massage therapy, and then I took advanced courses to do kinesiology and a lot of these other advanced studies in the body, how the body functions, the flows and all that. But essentially, when we started looking at a lot of these things, and I went back to some of my basic anatomy courses and basic anatomy books, I literally pulled out the books and went, I'm looking at a skin cell in my anatomy book, and you're showing me a picture on here that is saying it's a rock. Now, my scientific medical training site says that this doesn't compute. How does that compute if one is saying it's geology and the other one is saying it's biology? Now we're seeing this throughout everywhere now. There's things that can simply just, if people will take the step back at the bigger view and examine it, not just at the pebble level, whether it's the pebble is the mountain or the pebble is literally the pebble you're walking on. You need to take that bigger view and look at the way it flows, the way it shapes, the way that the veins in itself would work, the way that the skin cells would decay. What would happen to your fat cells? What would they turn into? What would your blood cells turn into? White cells and all that. All these minerals and things that are found in our body are found in the earth, right? There is nothing under the earth that has not already been created. So It's all here. We are part of it. It's part of us. Why wouldn't the earth not be designed the same way as we are if we are of it? And simply taking that time to look at, without questioning, just being open-minded. Okay, I'm seeing two things that look identical. If they're both saying something different, there's got to be a reason, and there's a way to track that down. And that's what she did. She took a step back. She started looking at the stories, the myths, all that, and started looking at other things.
Something I find really interesting too is that they used to think that these stories came from the Native Americans finding like the actual fossils of dinosaurs and things, right? But there's a whole other person that wrote a book on how it could not have been that because of how detailed these stories are and such. Well, like this right here is a good example. This is a dragon, okay? Here's his eye right here. His snout comes down right here. He's got this really cool beard protrusion like thing coming off of his chin. He's got horns on his head. He has wings going out both sides. And this right here is actually the heart of Zuni land from the story that I just read.
Wow,
and they have
nice
stories. They have stories of dragons. But they would not have been able to see this dragon like we can from above on Google Earth. So from their perspective down there, how would they have known about this dragon lion here? They do have a story about him. The Apache do, the Navajo do. It could be a Itzo or Delgyed. But yeah, I mean, they didn't have this kind of technology to see these things from above. So to see these things now and to fit them into these stories that have been there all along, that's when I really have to step back and say, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You know?
They've absolutely been telling us what's been going on. But our own whomevers, I call them, they want to erase that. It's like, because I guess we're kept in the dark, and that way we're easier to control. That's all I can think of. It's just down to the basics of that. But yes, this is just a great find.
And like right here, wing gate on the wing.
Yeah. Oh,
You know?
they are snarky people, are they not?
Come
They will
on
put it in our
now.
face every time, I'm telling you.
I know. Like the one over here, there's a rainbow dragon in the Rocky Mountains here. And they named it Rainbow Dragon for me.
Yes. Yeah, they do.
But yeah,
You
right here,
know?
Rainbow Dragon Dinosaur right here. Rainbow Dragon Dinosaur. And here's the eye and the head. I have a video on
Oh,
that one
yeah.
too. And that's the big
Wow.
wing. But it's like a big rainbow dragon dinosaur.
Yeah, they do that to us. I swear they do.
Yeah,
And
they do.
they're laughing all the way to the bank with it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, with our money out of our pocketbook.
That's what I'm telling you. They keep us ignorant. Oh, we're, in the dark, little mushrooms. And they just, because if we really knew our history, we'd have a better grasp on our future and our present, and they do not want that.
No, that's the
Exactly.
problem. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's the problem is we do know the history, his story.
Yeah.
We've been listening and been force-fed his story for too long.
Yeah.
We need to stop. In my personal opinion, this is just my thoughts, but his story needs to go away. There's a lot of other words that need to go away, in my opinion, too. But his story needs to go away because his story goes to who? The winner.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Every
the winner
time.
gets to decide how he tells the story of how he won. Well, go back to some of these mythological stories, and these heroes are pretty brave and bold and courageous and daring. And well, was that really how it happened, or did somebody really hand him his rear end and he just happened to scave out of it? But because he scaved out of it and won, he gets to tell it his way.
That's
his
usually
story.
how it goes. Is it not?
Yeah.
Even today and even in smaller situations. This is where we do. And I think the internet has kind of sideswiped this sector of our civilization. People now are starting to stop and question. And like I said, it just takes one little thing, whatever it is for that person, to go, fill in the blank. That really didn't happen. And naturally, we start mentally rolling into other things as well. Well, what else isn't true, And it's just a wonderful, I'm just having a blast. This has been a wonderful exploration for me and has renewed me in a sense. So anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
It's so hard to digress from this simply because it's when you take your ego or whatever out of the equation and just simply think, okay, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. How can I step back and look at it and really make things add up? That is, if all things are unlogical until it becomes logical, well, then that's your answer, right?
Yeah.
That's how we need to approach it. And we need to use their internet, their tools, their devices to show them what they've been hiding.
That transmutation's already happening.
I know, that's so Aquarian too, is it not?
Yeah.
Isn't that twisty?
Yeah.
They're tools, and we kind of said, all right. That's why I was saying the other night, about they're taking AM radio and stuff. They've taken it away from us in real radio. But I said, humans will always find a way around things. We just will. It's our nature.
Yes.
And I was going to get back to one thing that Max said earlier. He brought up the Fibonacci. And you know what? That is very possible. We think that as each generation or each manifestation of humans, are evolving, that we should get bigger and bigger. But actually, we may be getting smaller and smaller instead. That's kind of
right.
We were just talking about it the other day where if we go back to a lot of these iterations of looking back at it, where all these things have happened, each time it seems like the smaller has somehow been battling a bigger. in some ways. It's almost like the scale is trying to balance, is what I'm seeing in my head. So, you start off with these big, huge forms of beings, whether they're dragons or they're giants or gods or whatever, right? But each time these events happen and come down to the next evolution of what's going to happen, or I don't know if evolution is the right word, but the next iteration, things seem to start becoming, the smaller things start to either get bigger or stay the same, and the bigger starts to come down to balance. So in a way, in my head, when we were talking about the internet, it's almost like it was that light to dark, where the Aquarius is bringing up and allowing that expansion of open-mindedness to say, okay, look, this is no longer, and we're taking those pieces and moving it to the right side of the scale to balance the equation, to tip it finally.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. That is a very interesting view. But yes, I think, I guess again, I've been so indoctrinated. Sometimes I do have those old expectations, and I've got to let go of them. I know my
Right.
dog, I just have to say, as far as reduction goes, I know my dog was a Brontosaurus Rex in the previous civilization. He's reduced now, but he still has that same.
We have believed that a few of our dogs have been little dragons that have just been miniaturized. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
are. They are. They're miniature dragons, I swear. Anyway.
Something Max said earlier, he says, I think we are in a torus field universe and we are coming out of the center at the magnetic expanding part. I think he's really, close to right on there. Like with the Norb theory, we live in like a closed environment, right? It's a closed system. And the only way into this system is interdimensionally or to be grown into it. And so, and then, every so many years it pops a new bubble and it expands. And it's done that 4 times already. And they say it's about to do it again. But in order for them to have something here for us to stand on, they had to grow something into this matrix to begin with. So they actually grew Tiamat in here, almost like an incubator. They needed to grow something here and then use it for something for us to stand upon. And that's been the cycle of life, time and time again from the beginning. And that's why Roger, he points out this scripture all the time that Jesus says that once you know the world, you will see the carcass. Once you see the carcass, you'll be disturbed. And I believe that's what it's talking about. Because it is quite disturbing that the whole earth is a carcass,
Wow. That's
Yeah.
fascinating. Yes.
Yeah.
And that makes sense.
Right.
To inject something in here, grow it, or several things. Let them grow and die. And you're right. Now we have
Yeah.
something to be upon.
Right. Yeah. I think it was like how they had to do it, And all the ancient texts speak of it too. Like the Mayan, they say it was a caiman or like an alligator type sea dragon. In the Sumerian, it was Tiamat. In Egyptian, it was I cannot remember the name. Amut.
Oh,
They
it's
also have a
interesting.
serpent that's supposed to be holding up the world.
Yes.
Shasha, with the 1,000 hoods, is supposed to be holding up the world in the Vishnu, the Vedic. So, yeah, how do so many different ancient cultures from around the world have these same creation stories of creatures like that over and over again?
No, it's very true. And in the Egyptians, they had a lot to do with alligators. And a lot of people speculated that meant the Milky Way because it looks like kind of an alligator eating its tail sort of thing. Now,
Right.
bringing that back around, they're talking about what we're standing upon. we're standing upon the great alligator, for lack of better words. Yeah, that's
Right.
fascinating. I'm going to look at that differently now. I'm going to look at these things differently because, like I said, the old
Mexico
paradigm
kind of looks like
relates
an alligator
everything.
too.
Yeah,
Like if this was
yeah.
the head and the face, and it's got like it's actually an alligator with flippers, and it kind of looks like a flipper here, and this whole
Oh,
thing would be like the body.
oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I see it.
Yeah. And
Wow.
Max was just saying he thinks that all of North America is the great macaw, and that is in there's another Mayan story of the five sons. And so they went they trying to get the sun up in the sky that we have now. They tried 4 times and failed. And each of these times too, in creating the earth, the gods actually had to use their bodies to create the earth. So this very well could be like the head of the bird, and it's like the eyes in here probably, and the wings come out both ways. And he's huge. He's huge. And if this one here, the East Coast dragon, is actually Quetzalcoatl, I think that would have been from one of the newer stories because he's quite a bit smaller, you know. So yeah, I think that's where that going down in stature each time comes into play too.
That makes sense. Yeah. Something in that order is happening because we're seeing bigger to smaller in
Right.
the bones that they found, all over. They've found giants everywhere, and our dear
Yeah.
Smithsonian Institute decides to hide all of that from us. So anyway, we
How
have to
nice of
just,
them to keep it in a good, safe, secure place for us, huh?
oh yeah,
Along
yeah,
with all
yeah.
the Egyptian artifacts that were in the Grand Canyon. Oh wait, no, that never happened, right?
No,
Right.
exactly, no. Look the other way, folks. Move along, nothing here.
I
No,
mean,
they've been doing that
that's
to
just
us.
why Native Americans happen to have some of the same symbols as cultures from over there, but that's just coincidence, right?
Oh yeah, it's very coincidental that there's star forts on every continent. Now we're finding practically pyramids on every continent. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I think, they're realizing they can't hide it too much longer because, first of all, these things are huge. You just can't stick some of this in a cupboard. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
Gobekli Tepe. Oh no, we're just gonna just bury it back up with sand. Don't mind this. you know, they
Well,
can't
Right.
do it. They can't hide it anymore. We're finding so much.
why are they
Yeah.
trying to hide some of the old maps? Now, if I
Oh.
understand
Hmm.
the understanding from back then that it was extremely expensive to one draw on the paper, get the paper, to get the inks, to do any of this, much less be known to draw a map. So to have your name on a map and have it published meant that you were a respected, understood person that went out and was truthful and honest about what you drew on your map. That's what we understand maps to be. So we know where we're
Right.
going, what we're going to run into, right?
Hmm.
Well, why are all these old maps actually have creatures on them? Was
Yeah.
it just to scare off the shippermen, or the sailormen and mariners to go somewhere else? Or was it because someone ran into that creature or creatures or island or whatever that may
Right.
have been and said, hey, if you go this way, you might run into this. This is what's here. That would make more logical sense of why it would be on a map instead of, oh, it was just to make it fun and exciting. I'm sorry,
No,
no.
no, you're,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right, Leo.
Exactly.
There was a code of codex, let's put it that way. What they were putting on these maps were like the news. It was like, and if you go this much further, you're going to see that elephant, whale that comes out of the ocean or whatever they drew on them. Yes, absolutely. That was not fairy tales. That was the codex, the
Right.
pictures that tell the sailors what's to be expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in the military, and you're a veteran as well. You'll agree with me on this. I think we wouldn't just pull out a map and see things on the map and think, oh, they just put that there just to put it there. We use those as specific references, landmarks, target marketing, landing. I mean, there is a reason for it to be on the map.
Oh yeah. No.
That's not changed throughout our evolve, evolving through life.
No, you're absolutely no. It was for our survival. If you had something there, you know what I'm saying? It's necessary data to move forward, in a
Right.
military sense.
Right.
But
So if
yeah,
we just go ahead.
I was gonna say no. You're absolutely taking us in the right direction. Those sailors are just like military. They're there to accomplish a mission, and you're not going to just willy-nilly put little things on the map because they'll think it's cute when they get there. No, that
Right.
just didn't happen.
If you were commanding a ship back at any time, now, then, whenever, if you're commanding a vessel of that importance, you were not a person that was just a willy-nilly person.
No.
So if we just take that simple example of if that stuff was really on those pieces of document for a reason, and we know that that was a legitimate reason, then we could take that same example and apply it to all the other his stories, myths, whatever you want to label those stupid things as nowadays, which we are realizing is actual information, facts, because it would correlate, it would make sense. It's as Spock would say, it's illogical to think of it in any other way because logic only plays one way.
In that
If that was
sense,
true,
yes.
then those stories would have that line up with those maps would have to be of factual basis to have even put them on
Oh
paper.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. The captains would have come back to the map makers and thrown them in the brig for
Yeah.
for soliciting propaganda and
Or
scare
drag them behind
tactics.
the ship as they
There,
sailed.
oh, there you go. Better yet.
Well,
No,
Perry Reese was actually Muslim, so he was familiar with the Book of Wonders, the Akbar al Zaman. So he knew the jinn, and so when he was making his maps, I think that he also went off of a lot of those stories too, and that's why we see the jinn on his maps and the sea monsters and stuff as well.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. It was
it
telling
was
them
common knowledge.
there's a danger here. There's
Right.
something odd. Yeah, that was the whole idea, not just to I mean, because let's face it, the maps back then were very vague. They
Yeah.
weren't as precise as they are now.
Right.
Some areas look larger than they are, and in other areas will look smaller now. Because they just were generalizing as they were riding around the shores.
Yeah.
Guesstimating,
Well,
I
we
guess.
also have the rise and fall of water. That is a natural phenomenon on this existence. There's no denying that, and there is no denying that there has been major water events that would change the shape of what we see. Water is one
Oh
of the
yeah.
most
Mhm.
destructive forms of nature on this planet just by simply
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But I was with the map situation. I'm just saying they weren't precise, but they were showing shorelines and showing if you stop off at this bay, you're going to see this weird looking, pick your, little whatever, it could be gin, it could be,
Right.
uh, what
Right.
was it also those beings that it's like their face is more into their body. I forget their name. Anyway, it was another thing that they passed off as folklore, but they now kind of think they might have existed. They were a type of human, but they had no neck. Their heads were more in what we would call our
Right.
chest.
Yeah. And Native Americans here have stories of creatures that look just like that,
Yeah.
which is really fascinating because on the Piri Reis map, he shows them as being over in South America.
Yes, that's where I said, yes, exactly.
Mhm.
And
And
like
then
I
the
said, they didn't,
Sinepali, the dog-headed people. Okay, the Native Americans also have coyote,
That's right.
you know?
No,
So,
I think what we now call chimeras, I believe were beings that actually existed.
oh, I do too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, yep,
They existed, kind of coexisted apparently with us at one time because we have maps of them. We
right.
have documented. Like I said, the map makers were, in a creating a codex for these sailors to survive. It wasn't just this
Yep.
something to be pretty to hang up on your walls like we do now. you know. But
Right.
Histologically purified past. If I'm saying your name wrong,
Petrified past.
petrified past. Thank you. Is saying that the name was belly face people.
oh,
Ah,
thank you, thank you. Yes,
yeah,
yeah. And I was also kind of looking at, speaking of Göbekli Tepe, the T-shaped stones. They're showing, you can see that they're like men with belts, but they don't
right.
have, but their faces again don't have like chins. It's almost, I'm just kind of trying to tie certain things in lately because
Yeah.
I've just came across some of this with the folklore and going, oh my gosh, I'm seeing that elsewhere. We're just not recognizing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Well, yeah, in the past, I mean, especially in, the Islamic religion, these creatures were a very real thing, and they still are today. I mean, that's why they have so many details on each one and specifics about each one because they were a real thing.
Do
So,
you suppose, I mean, if they can indeed do cloning, do you suppose they've found some samples that they could actually remake some of these beans? I'm just wondering.
Are you really thinking they haven't accomplished that already?
I'm
I don't.
wondering.
I'm just now coming across the idea. I'm a little slow.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
wondering if they already still exist in
And they
some of
just,
those,
uh,
the outer oceans, the great big deeps that they talk about. Because we have so many extra terrains that extend out beyond this one. If you look at that Buddhist map, we only know of like a very small fraction of the land that's actually here.
that is correct. We are on the inner circle and we're kept naive.
Hmm.
As yeah, no, I totally. And do you suppose that that when people come across these beings, they pass them off as ETs, that came from space,
Oh
but
yeah,
actually they're not from space. They're just our neighbors, down the next circle. you know.
extraterrestrials, extra terrain. It's
Yes,
extraterrestrial. Um,
extraterrestrials, exactly. But
yeah.
they're yeah.
So they are technically, yeah,
Or
That's right. And
interdimensional?
see, I told you those
we're
whomevers, see how they play us? They say it right
right.
to our
It's in your
face.
face. I know, just
Well,
like they founded everything.
we've also had this experience
Yes.
in the military where we have seen on TV. We're like, hey, look at this new technology they're coming out with, and we're like, wait a minute, we've been playing with that for the last 5 years now. Why is it new technology to everybody? We've seen that, right? But we've also seen them come out and say, hey, we've cloned this sheep. Hey, we've cloned that, this or that. Military dark science, military sciences division. We know how well they like to play in the, what do we call, gray area.
Yeah.
I mean, if this thought has crossed their mind on this platform of animals, where else would they have applied it? I mean, we
Oh
know that
yeah.
there's been a design of the super soldier program on many iterations of versions throughout the military history. They've always been trying to seek out the perfect soldier. If that is something they're trying to do, they would also apply cloning. But where would they have gotten that information? That technology goes back to someone new. Someone had to give it to them. My
Hmm.
thought.
Yes, well, that was the Catholic Church collecting all of that ancient data for just the right moment for the right person to figure out how to put it all together. That's how these things roll out. Because some things I do truly think humans are very capable of inventing, but other things I'm going, really? We
Yeah.
did that? Really? How did someone come up with that? I mean, it's very, except for Wheels on Luggage, we were slow on that one. I don't know why. But everything else, it just seems to roll out. So yeah, I think that they it's hidden. It's that hidden occult of the Vatican and Smithsonian and all of those. And I do think some of our recent wars, unfortunately, have started over ancient technology that they wanted to get to. I heard, the whole thing with
Yeah.
Iraq was partly they wanted in those museums. They had stuff.
Yep. Yes. And then I start to look at these sea creatures like this too. Like this right here, I think it's some sort of seahorse. Like on the maps, when you look on the maps, it's actually right over here in the water on the maps, and it's usually got a lobster in his claws. He's like blue with red polka dots, but he's got an eye right here and his snout right here, and it's the shape of a seahorse. And then it has these little dots or something all over it, like some sort of skin texture.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Really
That is
weird.
interesting. So, is there anything going on in the islands as far as their stories that would?
I haven't found one on this particular creature yet, but I see these things laying here in the ocean, the size that they are, and it makes me think of like Pacific Rim, and you're talking about, militarization and stuff. If they have knowledge of these things, what would that mean?
MudfosssilGaia, could you bring that in closer again where you were
Oh,
at? I wanted,
yeah.
because I just now see it's right by Spain, and I just was looking at these islands. They're fascinating. I need
Yeah.
a little. I'm blind. You're going to have to really
Okay.
bring it in for this dear old gal at this time of night. Is it Parma?
So,
Yes. That just,
yes, Palma.
yeah, Parma. That's the island that just recently broke off of Spain. It's its own country now, and it has a lot of Tartarian old castles, melty things going on in it. Very interesting islands going
Oh,
on in here.
cool.
But
So
they're
there we have another melted building on top of a creature.
ding ding. That's exactly where I was going. So you're onto
Yeah.
something, because that's what I
Nice.
think they were doing. They were building on these areas for a reason.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
yeah,
New.
this is famous for castles,
Oh,
and they also have some structures. If you
oh,
didn't know better, you would swear that they were in South America.
right. Here, just a sec. Good night, Histology, Petrified Past. Thank you
Yes,
for joining us.
thank you so much. I don't know your channel, but I'm going to research it after I get off of here. Sounds great.
But yeah, they absolutely knew what they were building upon. I'm almost positive of that. Like with the Griffin over here, Iran, right in the eye, they built the holy shrine. Right in
That,
the,
oh, yes, they did. Oh, look at that. See?
they knew what they were doing,
Yes, they
and
do.
that's not the only one. There's another big bird down here, and it has this really cool palace in its eye also. So, like, this is the beak and the head,
Oh, yeah, I totally see it.
and the eye is right here.
Wow.
And these places that they build, these holy places, are so extravagant. They look like holy portals or something, like transcendence through the eyes of angels or something.
Yeah,
you know?
they're tapping something here. They do.
Yeah.
They have known this for, I mean, we're talking millennia. I
Hmm.
mean, we're going back thousands and thousands and thousands. I mean, they've known this, and yes, and this is probably some of that secret science, that our modern day, what do you want to call them, Masons and all of them, they know this stuff.
Right.
The ones
Yeah,
that, yeah.
exactly. The ones that are in the know.
Yeah. Wow, that is amazing. That's a great find.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a pattern I've found. They knew what they were building upon, and I'm almost sure they were harnessing the energies of these, angels or whatever. I mean, the legend people, they were known all over the world. So
Yeah. Well, and going back to Max Vision's talk tonight with the pineal gland, if you think about it, I don't know how animals are constructed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the eyes are very near a pineal gland.
oh,
So
good point.
yeah, yes, are they tapping that out through the
Right.
eye? Ooh,
Ah,
something. They're doing
yeah.
something.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll have to look into that place over there. That Palma Island.
Yes, Spain is
See if
that
I can
whole area. Yes, very interesting, and
find.
you'll see it if you look up their flag. It has a sideways castle. I think they're
Oh,
again.
that's the one.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
and there again they put it in our face.
Yeah.
Yes, we have
Right.
castles, but don't look at
Okay.
them normally. Look at them
Mm,
sideways because they're all melted.
right. Wow.
Oh wow.
Well, this was fun, Smoking in G Sharp.
Oh,
Thank you for coming on
absolutely.
with me tonight.
Oh, absolutely. This has been great. Thank you for having me. This is a blast. This just made my night.
Well, before we get going, since Amy doesn't always seem to remember to do this, we want to make sure that everybody, if they get a chance to hit the like button and subscribe, and she will be having a contest coming out because she is real close to 1,000 subscribers. We want her to get her over 1,000. That helps her do a lot more things for the channel and for the group. And if people would like to help support and see any of more of the boots on the ground or any of that kind of stuff, there's links that they can go to on the MudfossilGaia page and things like that to go and support. But please, if you guys really think that this stuff has the availability of trying to take traction, let's share it. Let's get everybody to come on board. There's other people that we've tried to reach out to in the Mudfossil group, and we would like for them to even just look at the stuff. But let's share it. Let's get us above 1,000 so we can get this out to everybody and make this information known so that it stops being mythology and becomes factual information again.
Yes. Thank you, everybody that showed up tonight. And I'll be doing this again real soon.
Yeah, thank you, Sparkle and Max Vision and Jay Evans. We've had quite a few come through the channel tonight, and Melchizedek's Salem, thank you, and Cowboy Church, thank you. If it wasn't for you guys helping do this and show that someone is interested in this, I don't know that she would be as motivated. But we know this information needs to be out there. We want to share it. We want to look at it from every point of view. If you've got something that you want us to look at from a different angle, we welcome that view. Let's just figure out what really is and stop using his story.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you guys. And Smoking in G Sharp.
Yeah, this is
If you want to just hang out for a minute, I'll go ahead and wrap it up.
absolutely. You take care, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. This has been great.